I do not think that the Democratic Party will have another national president. I do not think that this incarnation of the Democratic Party has anybody in it that can win a national race. And I mean that whether they're going up against Rubio or Vance, and they don't have a single person that can do it.
And the pack is being set against them majorly in every dimension of the election, legal and illegal.
Yeah.
We saw the other day, obviously, this vote. Massey has been relentless in what he's trying to accomplish, and we're very grateful for that. I have no doubt that he is politically motivated, whether it is for the Senate in Kentucky or, dare I say, president in 28. But he is willing to put himself out there in a way that nobody else seems to want to do. And, you got to give credit where credit is due. And you saw how the votes came down the other day. While everyone is concerned about reducing the military spending that we give to Israel, I think the greater concern, which is something that they're going to try to pass under the cover of night, is the conscription of the U.S. and Israel militaries is one. I can't even believe that something like that is even plausible, but when empires are collapsing, anything can happen. How do you see things unfolding at this point as things really start to heat up? I mean, right now, the only reason I could even see them attempting to push this through is because there is the prospect of a global war happening in West Asia right now.
Yeah, let's go back to your specific comment there. I was recently over at the Decor House where they have a nice library, and I was early, so I went in and I picked a book off the shelf, and it just happened to be Cy Hirsch's book that includes a really revealing chapter on Jonathan Pollard and what he did. All to say that Jonathan Pollard was truly a traitor. Jonathan Pollard should never have been pardoned, and probably should have been hung by the neck until he was dead at Leavenworth. But here's what we're doing, and Democrats notwithstanding, and so many Democrats voting as if they were opposed to this continued relationship with Israel is I think, partly a farce, because they're doing it for political reasons right now, and not necessarily because they really believe it in their hearts. But what we're doing is we're legalizing Jonathan Pollard's traitorship, if you will, his treason, with these rules and new laws that are making a intelligence sharing operation that will be unlike any we've ever had with anyone in the world. And the other side of it is the money and the relationship between defense contractors, Israel, and us. We are making Jonathan Pollard real in the middle of our national security complex. It's unbelievable what we're doing. And the Democrats are going to go along with it, as far as I can tell. So that specific comment tells you, I think, that we're still in deep trouble with this relationship. And then the more general comment would be, yes, we've got two wars raging right now, both of which have prospects of enlarging themselves majorly, and both of which are going to suck us into a point where we have no choice but to join in, and then it's going to go nuclear. That's what we're looking at in both of these theaters. Right now, we're looking at, if the Majlis did what I'm being told it did today, they probably made a decision, and it's going to be binding, that they will leave the non-proliferation treaty. And the other side of that is they will build a nuclear weapon if they haven't already built one, and they're going to reveal it. So this whole conflict in Southwest Asia has a dimension to it we haven't seen yet. We've heard about it. Donald Trump talks about it endlessly. I destroyed their nuclear program. He did no such thing.
Totally destroyed it.
It's very much alive and well, and it may well have already produced a nuclear weapon. I wouldn't be surprised if it has, and they're just formalizing it now. But it is going to. And I think they've made a decision now in that position that they just took that says, we're going to present you with the nuclear power very shortly.
I'm not sure that, do we even know that they weren't given that by someone else? And that they, I mean, how do we even know that they even had to come up with that themselves?
Well, that's a possibility. Pakistan comes to mind immediately, but I really think they have agonized over this. They've agonized over the fatwa. They agonized over the death of the Ayatollah, and that sort of disappeared the obstacle, if you will, for the IRGC anyway. But they've quit agonizing. And I think we're the ones, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. I think we're the ones that have done it. They have got the strategic fulcrum now with regard to this war. They're beating us. They're beating us thoroughly. Haaretz said some months ago in a headline that I thought was pretty trenchant, all Iran has to do is not lose to win. All Bibi and Trump have to do is win spectacularly. Well, they've lost. Maybe not lost spectacularly. It could get to that, but they have lost. The two hinge points that are just staring us in the face right now is we do not have control over the Strait of Hormuz. If anyone does, Iran does. And that's going to make a huge difference to world commerce, because now we're engaged in an exchange that is giving Iran real opportunity to go after other targets. They just destroyed one port. It debouches on Oman, but it is one of the significant ports for oil. They just destroyed it. And they've wreaked havoc all the way up from Basra, from Muscat to Basra, and are still doing that. They have hit our fields in Jordan, our aircraft in Jordan, so badly that we're going to have to abandon Jordan. And one wonders where we're going to go, because there isn't going to be much territory left except that group of states along the Gulf that have essentially abandoned their homes and their workplaces from Bahrain to Kuwait and turned it over to us because that's the only ground we have to fight back with. This is getting very, very dangerous, and it doesn't seem to be registering with Donald Trump. Not at all. There's just a daily tactical maneuver by him. There is no strategy to this. They have the U.S. has lost the bubble on the nuclear program. That's the most important issue. And secondly, it's lost the bubble on the Strait of Hormuz. And thirdly, if the Houthis are going to be successful, and I suspect they were before, they're also probably going to close the Bab el-Mandab. And we've already seen what they can do to the Saudi oil line. It was supposed to take pressure off the Gulf by putting it out near Jeddah. Sorry, the Houthis are going to get that too. I think we are in real trouble in Southwest Asia right now. And we have a president who doesn't realize it. Or if he does, he's faking it.
I'm not sure with him half the time if he's delusional or he's lying or both. And I think it's a combination of both. But it wouldn't surprise me, as absurd as this sounds, if they have somebody talking on the phone that he thinks is a real person, that he thinks that he's talking to the Iranians. I don't know. But like he comes on and talks like he's having negotiations are happening. And yet all I see are people like you and Professor Morandi saying, no, they're not. No, exactly.
There have been no direct talks.
Who is he talking to?
There have been no direct talks whatsoever. And we lost big time on the MOU. We just lost. I mean, that MOU was an admission of defeat, which is why we walked away from it. We said, no, the funeral can go on, and then we'll go back to negotiations. You'll note we haven't gone back to the negotiations because we lost. We lost that whole deal in that MOU. Iran got everything it wanted, and we got nothing that we wanted. And it was pending whether or not what we wanted and what they wanted would be adjudicated again. But it isn't going to be, because you're right. There's no diplomacy. I don't think there's been a moment in all of this that a U.S. person identified as a diplomat has talked to an Iranian person identified as a diplomat, or actually probably the most foremost one. We are not doing any diplomacy. We're just shouting from the rooftops, and most of the shouting, as you said, is being done by Donald Trump.
They're not talking to us, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't either. And I mean, one question I have for you is, it's like, if you were on that team, wouldn't you be advising them that, you really need to pick up that nuclear program about now, because we are not to be trusted with any agreement, even if we made one?
I think it's a done deal. I really do. I think Iran is going to be the 10th nuclear power very shortly. They're going to withdraw from the Non-Proliferation Treaty. They're going to do it just according to Hoyle. And then they're going to say, we got a nuclear weapon, or 2 or 3, like the North Koreans did. They had 12, I think. Got about Colonel, 50 now, I think.
Colonel, we're in a very dangerous position, I think, in large part because it has finally become clear, even to the average person, that this unholy alliance with Israel is going to be the downfall of U.S. empire. It already is. It's just a question of how far we fall down the mountain. And I say that because, as Jen and I have pointed out time and again, the Strait of Hormuz is the checkmate against U.S. empire, because essentially what Iran has done is they've given us an ultimatum. You have two choices. You can either cut ties with Israel, or you can you can cut ties with Israel and save your economy, or you can continue down this road with Israel and lose everything. And that's basically what they're saying. We will put you into an economic depression if you do not back off this relationship with Israel. And now we know for sure things are getting very dicey because this is happening. Israel and Turkey compete for regional hegemony. It is obvious that the saber rattling with Turkey is becoming completely precarious. And Jen, as you pointed out time and again, the Turkish military is not one that you want to mess with.
I think we're already past the point you just suggested we might be approaching. I think we're already past it. I don't think the Iranians are going to talk to us again, period. I don't think they're going to do anything that even remotely resembles a diplomatic approach anymore. They made up their minds. And what they're doing right now, and what they just did, apparently, further eliminating forces that belong to us on the other side of the Gulf. And I'm waiting to hear how many casualties are coming into Landstuhl in Germany. Hegseth is hiding all this, but I think they have taken out quite a few Americans. They hit a hotel in Oman just a few moments ago. They hit a hotel in Oman that was full of U.S. forces. So, I mean, I think they have injured or killed quite a few that we don't even know about yet. But there is no backing up from this now. I think all we can do is go to hell from here.
What about conscientious objection? Do you see that? Mike Preisner has been leading the effort to try to get current service members to basically back off of what appears to be an escalation with a point of no return. I've heard as many as 60,000 troops are basically bound for West Asia, and how that unfolds, it can't be good. Nothing good will come of it. It's only going to be bad. So my question is, do you see a situation where mutiny becomes maybe a little bit more commonplace amongst service members who simply don't want to die for this Zionist cause, if you will, this greater Israel project?
Well, at the Eisenhower Media Network and elsewhere, the All Volunteer Force Forum, for example, we keep a real weather eye to the 18 to 24-year-old cohort, male and female in America. There, what you're saying is coming true. Sad to say, there are people out there now who couldn't be drafted if you tried. There's no way you could conscript them. They would either take off for Canada or Mexico or whatever. But I don't think that's the case within the ranks as they currently exist. And I think Hegseth has been largely successful in creating this sort of thing. Because what he's done is he has not only defied the Congress on their limit of 4% of mental category 4, he's gone all the way to 10, 11%. 1 out of 10 soldiers is a McNamara's 100,000, for example. Can't read their name on a guard roster. And what he did to the Congress when the IG reported on him was he said, oh, no, we sent them to school and taught them the tests. And then we retested them, and they're not mental category 4 anymore. They're 3. All to say that he's preacher packing, as we would say in South Carolina, the ranks. And he's already cleansed the flag officer ranks to a certain extent, the admirals and the generals. And I think we have a military that is, someone asked me today, where is Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs? Where are all these generals and admirals who ought to be objecting to what we're doing? Because
why aren't they?
Well, Hegseth has made sure that anyone who would is gone. They're gone. They believe in his version of Christian nationalism. They believe, for example, that women should be nothing but birthers of babies and keep their mouth shut otherwise. We just had the first year go by with no female in the Navy promoted to admiral. This is Hegseth's task, was to get this military in shape for, first of all, not doing what the military did on January the 6th and standing aside and watching it happen and not doing anything. What they want the military to do is not what Milley did afterwards to, essentially say, I was not going to participate in that. They want the military to participate. They want the military to be, at least some of them, enough of them to count on their side should they have to conduct a coup again. So they've been crafting this military very carefully. The prayer meetings that take place in the Pentagon. We just had a recent incident with a SEAL team in the theater of operations complaining back to the Military Religious Freedom Foundation about a leader of that SEAL team giving a briefing to all manner of people, Jordanians, Egyptians, others, Muslims, Jews, and leading it off with a Christian prayer. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, this was a guy reporting to the MRFF, telling about how he was really worried about this sort of thing happening at that level in special operating forces. So we have a military, I think, that has been largely crafted to do Trump's wishes for him, domestically or overseas. So you're not going to get a mutiny out of the ones overseas.
I think, though, all of those things that they've done have so inherently weakened the military just based on all the people they've eliminated.
Bingo. Yes. Yes. We've taken what was a real strength of the military, the ability to maintain good order and discipline and high morale with a wide array of Americans, females, males, all manner of religions. You could go up to a rifle squad of 10 or 11 men and women today and find 6 different religions in it, and maybe 2 or 3 different languages. I had friends tell me in Fallujah, for example, that they had to control their squads and their platoons by knowing Spanish, a little Arabic, and English, of course, because that's how variegated our squads were at that time. Not so much so anymore, because Hegseth has been carefully weeding people out and getting people. Here's another thing he did. Lloyd Austin for Joe Biden had compiled a list of extremists. And this list was to be looked at carefully when we were enlisting forces, recruiting forces for the military. Guess what Hegseth has done? He's taken those lists and recruited those people for the military. This is insanity, but that's what we're doing. And it's not good. It's not good from the perspective of warfighting. It's certainly not good for security. And I think it's aimed ultimately at the domestic situation. I hate to say that, but I think it is. And I think ICE is another component of that.
Yeah. It's all interconnected.
Yep.
And that's when people think that this is only going to be happening to undocumented immigrants. They're delusional. Because all of us who are technically Antifa, anybody who's anti-fascist, of course, Colonel Wilkerson, do you know where the international meetings are for Antifa? Because I haven't been able to find them. I mean, apparently it's a whole big group of people and I haven't been able to locate them, but all of us are going to be on that list.
Well, I think a lot of us are already on that list.
Exactly.
To be truthful, I think a lot of us are already on it. And I shudder to think how many people that I know that I work with are probably on that list. And I wonder when the knock on the door is going to come.
Yeah,
but at what point does the American people rebel? Because I feel like we're getting to a point now, and I've always said the biggest reason this country is.
But how do you rebel when you weigh 300 pounds or chomping down on a Big Mac and drinking a Coke and watching FIFA?
And have no education.
And have no education. Yeah, I mean, there's 40 million or more Americans like that. I fish in West Virginia. I don't want to cast any aspersions on West Virginia. I fish in West Virginia with my son-in-law. We go in a hotel. We go in a restaurant. There's nobody in there under 240 pounds,
no,
male or female. And sometimes it's much bigger than that. So, I mean, Americans are not just in terrible shape mentally. They're in awful shape physically. So, I mean, I understand where this MAGA component comes from.
I agree. And from the highlight of this particular story, within the administration, there is growing recognition that renewing the confrontation with Iran through the same methods employed in the past is unlikely to produce different results. Duh. Yeah. Even a broader military campaign could exact a high political, economic, and military cost on the United States. So I ask you, Colonel, what is the end goal here? I mean, is everybody flying by the seat of their pants? Is there no one with any forward-thinking capability here? I mean, what do they think is going to happen?
That's a question that we at the Eisenhower Media Network and elsewhere that I'm affiliated, we ask that question of ourselves almost every day. Who's in charge? Why isn't General Kane saying something? Why aren't the other flag officers in the military saying something? Why isn't somebody resigning? Why isn't somebody really speaking out? One or two retired people, the admiral in Southern Command who didn't like killing people extracurricularly, and a few others that they've pretty much put aside and gotten rid of. But basically, you're looking at a military that's going along with everything that's happening right now. We've killed over 200 people on the high seas with no due process of law. We have become a criminal nation. There's no question in my mind. We've become a criminal nation. We have no regard for the law whatsoever, not domestically, constitutionally, and certainly not internationally. We are the world's vagabond killer.
Yeah, right. That's like when Peter says we need to separate ourselves from the Zio state. We are the problem. Like, you can't separate us from them. They are us. How can we do that?
Absolutely. We're just like them and they just like us. That's the reason we get along so well.